So I want to give you guys an explanation of a topic called the 4 styles of reading tarot. This is something that I came across. Oh, I was gonna get a pile of books next to me. One second, guys, so I could show you everything that I'm referencing, and then I ran out of time. But so this concept of the 4 styles of reading tarot, I came across in this book. It's called Tarot and Psychology. But the author of this book credits this concept to Mary K. Greer. Mary K. Greer, as a lot of you might know, is one of my top tarot influences. I feel like I'm constantly referencing her in my blog posts and anytime I talk about tarot. But what's interesting is, although this is the book where I came across the idea, and it's credited to Mary K. Greer, I can't find the original source where Mary K. Greer talked about this originally. So if anyone happens to know, let me know, because I'm not sure. I have several of her books and I read her blog, but I don't know exactly where the original source of her talking about it is. So my understanding of it is slightly based on this book, and then I've also taken some notes to kind of expand upon what is shared in this book. So I did a little TikTok clip and I shared it here on my Instagram Reels as well, where I talked about this concept and I summarized it just in a 1-minute clip. Now, there's so much more that, of course, I couldn't fit in that 1-minute clip, so what I'll do today is sort of expand upon that, go into more details. So how I'm going to walk you through this is we're going to talk about an explanation of what each of these 4 styles is. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how each of them work. I'm going to talk about some of the potential benefits, what can be really positive about each of those 4 styles, and then I'll also talk about what are maybe some pitfalls or what are maybe some challenges to watch for with each of those 4 styles. One of the first things I want to say, because this is something I couldn't fit in when I did the quick little 1-minute TikTok clip about this topic, is most tarot readers draw upon multiple styles. So as you're listening to me talk about these styles, keep this in mind. It's not necessarily that there's probably just going to be one that describes either how you already read tarot or how you want to read tarot. You'll probably recognize yourself in multiple styles. And as the author of this book talks about, his opinion, and I agree, is that the very best tarot readers incorporate all 4 of these styles. Okay, so let's go through a description, talk about each of the 4 styles of reading tarot. So style number 1 we're going to talk about is the Analytic Style. And if you see me looking over here, it's because I jotted down some notes. Okay, so the Analytic Style, as you can probably guess by the name, is very systematic. With the Analytic Style of reading tarot, the biggest thing I think in my understanding of this style of reading tarot is that you're very much going into the symbolism on your cards. So people who are analytic readers typically have a really in-depth understanding, first of all, of the deck they're working with. So for example, if they're working with the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, they probably have a much deeper understanding than just, like the Fool is about taking a leap. They could look at the Fool card and go into the colors talk about this specific symbol is drawn from this sort of cultural practice or this mythology or whatever. So it's really about having a deep understanding of symbols with the Analytic Style. So when we're talking about symbols, I think it's important to keep in mind, and I'm probably going to explain this a little clunky. I'd like to talk about this more in the future, but I need to do a little more research to explain it really well. But there's basically different types of symbols. So there are symbols which are what we could think of as having sort of agreed upon cultural meanings. So those would be things from like specific religious practices or myths or things like that. But then there's also personal symbols where you might have your kind of association of what a symbol means. And in Analytic Style of reading, you can draw upon both of those types of symbolism. And then I'm going to read you a quote from the book, Tarot and Psychology, about the Analytic Style of reading. He says, "This style analyzes multiple layers of meaning before a synthesis is offered." That part I think is really important, because it's not just about pulling cards and telling someone, oh, you have the high priestess, and the pomegranate symbolize this and this symbolize that, and that could kind of leave the person being like, okay, but what am I supposed to take away from it? So that's kind of the deeper layer of the analytical style, is that you have to be able to have a really intricate understanding of the symbols, but then you have to be able to synthesize what this means to the person that you're reading for, or to, if you're reading for yourself, what it means to you. So I'm going to talk about more of the benefits of this style, and also talk about some of the drawbacks of this style. So the first thing I thought about, and this is coming from me, not coming from the book Tarot and Psychology. These are just my feelings on the benefits and the pitfalls. But the first thing I thought about with the benefit of the analytic style is that possibly there might be less projection. So if you don't know what I'm talking about with projection, it's where we are trying to kind of be objective as we're looking at a card, but we're actually placing something that is internal to us onto the card. It's kind of impossible for that not to happen at all when you're reading tarot, but sometimes projection can get in the way of giving a reading that has more nuance and depth to the person that you're reading for, right? So sometimes with the analytic style, if it's handled well, there can be less projection, which can be great. This, I think, the other big benefit to this just depends on your personality style. So if you are someone who is by nature a more systematic person, if you are someone who by nature enjoys things to have more of a structured approach, this is probably a style of reading tarot that's going to work well for you. And then, okay, I think that's it. I'm going to leave it there for now. Now I want to talk about some of the potential pitfalls to the analytic style of reading tarot. The first thing I thought about is that sometimes this style of reading can feel detached, and feeling detached is a tricky line to walk, because in some ways feeling detached can tie into what I talked about a moment ago with projection. Sometimes it's actually positive to have a bit of a detachment when you're reading tarot, but the analytic style of reading can sometimes feel detached in more of a cold way, where the person you're reading for doesn't necessarily feel that warmth and that heart. They sort of feel more of this kind of cold distance approach in a way that's maybe not as welcoming. So that's a potential pitfall to watch for with that style. Okay, and then I want to talk about, so for each of these 4 styles, I'm also going to give at least one suggested resource for deepening your skills in that particular style. And I meant to grab all the books off my bookshelf, because these are actually all ones I have, but I didn't grab them, so I'll just have to tell you. So my top recommendation for developing an analytic style of reading tarot is Holistic Tarot by Benebell. If you have this book, oh my goodness, it is a tome. It is a big book. Actually, when Benebell first wrote this book, I heard her mention in an interview that she wanted to call the book Tarot Analytics, and the publisher worked with her to change the style, but that was actually what she was going to call the book. So it is a very systematic approach that Benebell has, and I think that would be a great resource if you want to go deeper into that style. Okay, so that's our first one. We've covered the analytic style. How are we doing so far? People that are here live, how are we doing? Drop me some emojis or drop me some something. Let me know how we're doing. It's kind of weird, like, knowing people are here, but I can't see you. I can just see your usernames. Yay! Thank you guys. Thank you for being here. If you're just joining, I see some hearts. That makes me happy. Thanks, guys. Cool. Yay. Party popper emoji. I love it. Awesome. Okay. Thank you guys for hanging with me. Yeah. Okay. So let's move forward and talk about style number 2. Style number 2 is the therapeutic style. So with the therapeutic style, I'm going to read you a quote from the book I showed a moment ago, Tarot and Psychology. So with the therapeutic style, the reader becomes a supportive mirror who facilitates personal associations and feeling responses of the querent for the purpose of self-discovery. The reader listens and amplifies. So this is one of my go-to styles, I would say, personally, so I'm a little bit biased with this one. It's very different than the analytic style, but of course, again, like I talked about at the beginning, there's a lot of overlap and most readers draw upon all of these styles. But the biggest thing to me, the way that I would describe the therapeutic style, is that it's more of a co-creative approach. There's less of this idea that, I'm the reader and you're the person that I'm reading for. And there's more of we're sort of going into this together, and both of us are contributing to the energy of this reading. If you have been a client of mine, especially recently, because right now, and for the past at least a year, the only types of readings that I've been offering are where we do them in real time on video chat. So if you've been a client of mine recently, you probably know that I almost always start the session by actually talking about this, where I tell people that my intention is for the reading to be co-creative. And I'll often, in fact, when I lay out the spread, I usually start by asking my client, what stands out to you with these cards? So this is a style that I really like, is the therapeutic style, which is more of a co-creative process and really going into what does the person you're reading for see in the cards. Most of my clients are fellow tarot readers, but you can also use this style with people who are not familiar with tarot at all, because tarot is so imagery based. So you as the facilitator might need to, I really liked the quote I read from the book, listen and expand. It might not be about just like letting the client direct the reading, but really listening to what they're saying and then adding your knowledge of the cards and adding, kind of going deeper into what you hear them expressing about the card. So someone says they often see a good reading as a collaborative endeavor. Yes, absolutely. Like I said, I'm really partial to this style. Okay, so I already talked about a lot of the benefits of this style, but one of the big benefits is that this style of reading can very much feel therapeutic. It's called the therapeutic style, and it can feel very therapeutic. Now, I'm always, of course, reminding people tarot is not a replacement for therapy unless you are doing tarot with someone who is qualified to actually be a therapist, which there are people out there. There are therapists who use tarot in their practice. But even when it's not an official therapy, it can feel therapeutic. Again, it's not a replacement, but it can sort of have that feeling to it. And then another thing that I feel is a big benefit of the therapeutic style is the person you're reading for, they can feel more invested. With the analytic style, there's really this idea of I'm the reader and I'm delivering the reading, which not to crap on that. That can be that sometimes that's what people want, and sometimes that works really well. But when the client is kind of participating, I think it really involves them in the process of the reading, which I think is really cool. So what I have as a potential pitfall to a therapeutic style is sometimes this can let clients see what they want to see. And this is a difficult thing to talk about because I always think it's important to have space for what people do see in the cards. But sometimes as a tarot reader, we really need to be able to walk that line of making sure that, I talked earlier about projection, that we're not just letting the client do projection when we're working with this style of reading, that there's a little more objectivity, as much as you can. Okay, let's see here. Oh yeah, and then another thing I wanted to mention with this style as a potential pitfall, and this isn't really a pitfall as much as it is more of just a clarification. I think it's really important to, if you are working with more of this style of reading, you really want to make that clear to the people you're reading for, because there's still sort of people who don't know tarot, who aren't familiar with tarot, if they come to you for a reading and you work in in more of this modality, they might feel confused. It might not be what they've seen in movies or, what they expect a tarot reading to be. So it's just important to let your clients know, I have this kind of collaborative, co-creative process to how I do my readings. I have that all laid out on my website, so people usually know when they're coming in to work with me that it's going to be a conversation. Okay, and then a couple of suggested resources for developing your skills in the therapeutic style. The first one is, I'm going to grab this because it's right in front of me. I can see it. Give me 1 second. Hopefully my butt wasn't just in the can. Sorry if you just had to look at my butt for a minute. But okay, so this book, this is called Tarot for Transformation, and it's by Andy Matzner. Look at this. This book is so big, and it's amazing. So Andy Matzner is a wonderful tarot practitioner. He's also a qualified psychotherapist, I believe. And so he really has amazing information in this book if you are interested in working in this style of reading and more of a therapeutic style. This book is amazing. Highly, highly recommended. It's also a great book. The way that this book is structured is for you to work through a lot of deep inner work for yourself, and tarot is just sort of providing a framework within which to do that. It's great, guys. I very much recommend that one. Okay, and then I also wanted to mention, this is not out yet, but Jessica Dorr, who's a tarot reader that I really admire. I had a reading with her for my birthday last year. She has a book. It's not out yet, but it's going to be coming out. I don't know when, but it's coming out sometime. And she does a lot of this kind of therapeutic style. She has a background in, I think, social work. So when her book comes out, and even just, some of the things she shares on social media and whatnot, great for that as well. This one, someone asked what the book is called. This one is called Tarot for Transformation by Andy Matzner. Okay. Yay. All right. Okay, so give me a second. I gotta get a little water. Someone says they love Jessica too. She's super awesome. Okay, so let's talk about the third style. Okay, the third style we're going to talk about is the psychic style. So I'm going to read you a quote from the book Tarot and Psychology. Cards are springboards for inner sight and subtle sensory feelings. So this is not about traditional card meanings. It's sort of the, I don't want to say antithesis to the analytical style, but it's very different than the analytical style in that sometimes people who don't even have any background in tarot whatsoever, have never read a book about tarot, don't know anything about it, will just pick up a deck of cards and just start reading them. So it's this style can sometimes make analytical readers get a little uppity sometimes. Okay, so this is a funny thing to me about the psychic style. Oh yeah, someone asked Jessica. Oh yeah, someone's got her Instagram handle. Yeah, she's awesome. Everyone should follow her if you're not already. Okay, so I lost my train of thought. By the way, I will take more questions at the end. So if anyone has questions about any of this, you can let me know. Stick around and I'll go through those when we get to that point. Okay, so back to the psychic style. This is kind of funny to me because even just a few weeks ago, I did an interview for a podcast. It's not out yet. I'll share it when it is. But I mentioned during that interview that I was of the impression that this style was kind of going out of vogue. Like most readers that I know are very clear on saying, I'm not psychic. I don't read predictively. But what I realized after I did that interview, only a few days later, I joined TikTok. So I'm on TikTok now with all the youths. And I've realized that actually this psychic style of reading tarot, it's alive and well. If you guys don't know, it is all alive and well. There's so many, most of the tarot readings I see on TikTok are psychic style tarot readings. So it's still very much out there. Okay. So I want to talk about the benefits and the pitfalls to the psychic style of reading. It's an interesting one to talk about. I think the biggest thing for me with this style is I personally think it is pretty rare for someone to truly have what I would think of as psychic abilities. For a long time, I was sort of the opinion of, I don't really believe in psychic abilities. It's not something that I think. I've since evolved on that, and I do think that there are people who naturally have some psychic abilities, but there's a lot of people who don't, and there's a lot of people who, this can be, this style of reading, as you can see, I'm having a hard time talking about it because I want to be respectful of the fact that I've actually had at least one reading from a person who I truly feel did have some psychic abilities, and not only had them, but had really intentionally cultivated them and was using them with respect. Because if you're not using them with respect, this one can be very, very messy. So my feelings on it have kind of evolved a lot, but if someone truly has these skills, has truly developed them, and truly knows how to use them wisely, it can be good. I think that there's a lot of pitfalls of this style to me. One of the biggest ones is this, like I said, it kind of gives tarot readers a bad name because people who don't know that there's all these different styles of reading tarot, they sometimes think this psychic style is all there is. And there can be people who are not true psychics, but are just doing modalities of like cold reading. You can go online and look up cold reading and find that there's a lot of simple tricks people use to make it seem like they are psychic or that they are a medium, when they're actually just being manipulative and preying upon vulnerable people. So I think you have to make sure that you are not doing the sketchy shit if you are tapping into this style. Someone says, a woman who's been reading for 40 years told me the guy I like is gay, and she told me at least 3 times. It upset me very much because he doesn't seem gay and there's no proof of that. Yeah, that to me crosses a line on multiple levels. Like, she doesn't know this person. She's reading for you, not this person. Even if you know someone, you shouldn't be making assumptions about their sexuality. That is their business, and that is their sovereignty to decide how they express that, who they share that information with, how they define that. Yeah, that would upset me on multiple levels, very much so. So yeah, this style is kind of a slippery slope. I have evolved into being, of the belief that it can be handled well, it can be handled with care, but it can also be a hot fucking mess really easily. So you have to be wise and be aware when you're thinking about that one. Okay, but all of that being said, a suggested resource for this, I talked about this one not too long ago. I think I did a review of this book. It's pretty new. It's called Tarot No Questions Asked by Theresa Reed, also known as the Tarot Lady. Theresa Reed is one of the first tarot readers I found online when I started becoming a professional tarot reader myself. She does, like I said, all the best readers I know draw upon a lot of different styles, and she's no exception to that. But she is someone who I know does sometimes dip into this kind of predictive or psychic style of reading, but she's someone I think is very respectful, manages it really well, has very much developed her kind of craft with that, and her new book, Tarot No Questions Asked, gives you a lot of ways that you can do that for yourself in ways that I think are really solid. Again, they're not sketchy. There is some sketchy stuff out there with this style, but that's a good one. Someone says that's their favorite book. It was really fun for me working through that one because, as you can tell, listening to me bumble through talking about this style of reading, it's a little outside of my comfort zone. So it's been something that I've shifted and kind of moved through over time. Thank you for your answer. You're welcome. Hope it's helpful. Okay. All right, so we have one more to talk about. Number 4, which is the magical style. So I'm going to read you a quote from the book. Based on positive affirmations and conscious intent, this encourages focus on the highest potential in every card. So when I think about actually, I want to read you one more quote from this because I think this is important. In this context, magic is defined as the art of changing consciousness at will. So it can mean a lot of different things when we say magic. So the magical style of tarot reading is about changing your consciousness through working with tarot. To me, when I think about this magical style of reading tarot, it stands out from the rest of these 4 approaches because this doesn't even always have to be about doing readings. With this style of working with tarot, in fact, in my experience, it's often about working with tarot in ways that are not just about doing readings. So it can be about meditation with the cards, it can be about visualization with the cards, it can be about path work with the cards, it can be just about journaling or studying with the cards. So there's a lot of different ways that open up to you with this magical style that are not just like, oh, I'm going to get out my deck and do a reading, right? Okay, so benefits of the magical style. I think there's a lot of overlap here with the therapeutic style that we talked about earlier. This is probably no surprise to anyone, but my sort of second, I think most common approach that I draw upon, my kind of top 2 that I use most of the time are probably therapeutic and magical. So I really love this idea. So it has some overlaps with the therapeutic style. And I think the biggest benefits of this magical style are that in my experience, working with tarot in this way for myself and sometimes facilitating this with my clients as well, it really is something that can result in very big inner shifts. This idea of transforming your consciousness, shifting your consciousness, is a magical act. And when you're able to be present for yourself and go through that process with tarot, to me, it's sort of the deepest potential, in my opinion, of what is possible with tarot. Someone says they see a crossover. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mentioned that. They definitely have some crossovers with the magical style and the therapeutic style. Another benefit, I think, to this style is it's really appealing for people who are maybe drawn to working with tarot, but they're just not really interested in doing readings. You know, I think we're at an interesting moment where tarot is tipping more and more in a bigger way into the mainstream awareness. I remember seeing, I think it was Bridget from Biddy Tarot a few years ago talking about how she thinks that probably what will happen with tarot in the mainstream is really similar to what happened with yoga, where yoga is a mainstream practice and it's sort of accepted in the mainstream community as something you can do that is beneficial, you know, that is healing, that is, it's not thought of as like a weird, wacky, woo-woo thing, you know, it's sort of just like a common modality that people do. And she was saying she thinks that will happen with tarot. So I think this modality, this magical style of reading tarot, could be really appealing to maybe someone who's already kind of into like yoga and, you know, sort of these whatever type of practices, and they don't necessarily want to do readings, but they're looking for another tool for sort of like self-transformation, self-discovery, self-care, I keep saying self, but I think that it's really important to remember that to me, when we are transforming our own consciousness, that's always for the benefit of the whole, because it always helps us be more present for injustices in the world. It helps us be more present for the people who need us in our lives. So it's not just about, you know, me. It's also about serving and being present for the fact that we're all connected. That's a little bit of a side tangent, but that's really important to me. Okay, and then for all of these styles, I'm trying to talk about benefits and pitfalls. And with this one, I started trying to think about pitfalls, and it kind of shows my biases, because I was like, what are the pitfalls to this? I don't know. It's hard to think of any, because I really love this way of working with tarot. But the one thing I did think of, which is actually a big pitfall to be aware of, is when you're working with the magical style of tarot, I think it's very important to make sure that you're not trying to use tarot as a replacement for other types of services or modalities that you might need. So for example, I think this can be a really great healing practice, but you don't want to try to use tarot instead of like going to the doctor or going to a therapist. You don't want to try to use it for a replacement for something that might actually be what you really need, right? So you have to be aware of that. Okay, and then for my suggested resources for the magical style of tarot, I have two. Okay, the first one is, it's actually out of print, this book, but you might be able to find it maybe used somewhere. It's called Tarot for the Healing Heart by Christine Jette, Jette. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. But I haven't worked through this entire book, but I got this book and it's, I think, really beautiful. It does have some things that are maybe I would want to be cautious with because that I talked earlier about using tarot for healing can be really powerful, but when we're talking about healing physically, you don't want it to be a replacement for the care of a doctor, the care of a professional, the care, all of those kinds of things. But it's a really lovely book. I'm sad that it's out of print. And then another one is, so earlier I showed you a book by Andy Matzner. This is another book by Andy Matzner. I don't have it next to me. It's on my bookshelf, but it's called the Tarot Activity Book. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's full of activities for using tarot to tap into your creativity, using tarot for meditation, using tarot in all kinds of ways to help you do this magical approach of transforming your consciousness. So as you can tell, I'm a big fan of Andy Matzner. That's another great book. Okay, so we've gone through all of the 4 styles, and then I just want to talk for a moment about some tips for integrating these 4 styles, because I've mentioned this a couple of times, but most of us draw upon at least 2 of these styles, and people who are the most kind of adept at tarot probably at some time draw upon all 4 of these styles, right? So I think the first thing that's helpful, and you've probably hopefully been doing this as I've been talking, but is to consider what style you already most commonly draw upon, right? And I meant to talk about this at the beginning, but one of the reasons I really like this concept of these 4 styles is I wish I would have had an introduction to this idea when I first started learning tarot, because then I would have known, this isn't meant to be like, these are the only 4 ways of learning tarot, but it does give me an idea of here's kind of some big umbrellas of different ways that I might focus my tarot practice, my relationship with the cards. So once you sort of know what you're most strong with right now, then I think it helps to think about which ones are either maybe that I have an aversion to, like I just don't like that style, or which ones do I maybe feel I'm not as practiced in. Now, sometimes if you have an aversion to it, it might be because it's just not for you, but you might find you're like me, where I mentioned I had a big aversion to the psychic style, and I've done a lot of work to kind of reframe and think about it in new ways and find out actually if handled with care, there can be some powerful things to that style. So if you have an aversion to a style, it might be an opportunity to do kind of like some shadow work around that and think about like, is there actually something I can learn from this style, from tapping into that style? And then, of course, if you think that there may be some you're not as adept in that you want to grow in, making it a conscious intention to grow your skill sets, your toolkits in those different areas by turning to, I gave resources suggested for each of the areas, so you might want to work with those, or there could be other resources out there. But then just practicing, that's all it is. Practice, practice, practice. As you're doing readings for yourself or other people, maybe make a practice of noticing, which one of these styles am I most tapping into right now? And how can I, in this moment, if I were really in the intention of, I want to be in the analytical style, or I want to be in the magical style, how might that influence what I did in this moment, how I showed up with these cards in this moment. So practice, 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 and just focusing and kind of becoming aware of what you're doing. Okay, that took longer than I thought, but I got through everything. So I hope I didn't miss too many comments in the live, but thank you guys for hanging out with me. And if you guys are here live, if you have questions, if you by chance have questions, you can drop them in and let me know, and we'll see if anyone does. I don't know, maybe I'm so thorough and so amazing that maybe nobody has any questions. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just not seeing them. Sometimes my chat thing is slow too. Oh, I see you dropping in, Deborah, yes. Dropping in some resources, some ideas. Thank you so much. Someone says, thank you for taking the time to do this. You're welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I appreciate you being here, everyone here live, and also all of you who happen to see the replay. Someone says they still don't get the magical style. Tell me more. What don't you get about it? Or what, or if you have a specific question about it, I can try to. You're welcome, guys. Thank you guys for being here. I see a lot of thank yous. You're very welcome. And less about therapeutic style. I think it comes from a lack of confidence. Yeah, that's the thing with any of these styles. I think that they take some intention, they definitely take some practice. Also, I think a big thing with any of the styles is really just knowing your capabilities and also knowing your limits. So with, the therapeutic style, when you're reading for someone, you really need to know when you've taken it as far as you can. Someone says, what is really the difference between therapy and tarot? Ooh, that's a tricky question, because how do you even really define therapy? I'm not qualified. I'm not a therapist. Oh, sorry. Some of the questions are actually going by too fast now that I can't. I think I missed some. But I can scroll back up. Okay. Someone asked, will you have a list of the books you mentioned posted somewhere? Sure. I'll make a post on my Instagram feed with all of them, because I have all of them, so I can even post a picture of them. Someone says it's been fun. Great. Okay, I'm curious as to how one would use tarot without doing a reading, even if reading for oneself. Let's not knock my phone over when I'm trying to scroll through the comments. Okay, actually I was there's not gonna be any questions. Now I'm behind on the questions. Okay, bear with me, guys. Okay, I want to go into, sorry, I kind of skipped over where someone asked the difference between tarot and therapy, but it's because I was just talking about knowing your kind of where you can go with something. And since I'm not a qualified therapist, I don't really feel like I can answer that answer it in a way that would really give it the answer that it deserves. I think the biggest difference I think I would say is when you go to someone who is a therapist, you know for a fact that they have had some professional training, that there are certain standards that they have to adhere to. Does that always mean they're going to be able to provide something of benefit to you? Of course not. I've been to therapists who I'm you're qualified, but you're not doing crap for me. But I've also been to some amazing therapists. But that's the thing is, anybody in the whole world can put out their shingle and say, I'm a professional tarot reader, come get a reading with me. Whereas therapists, they've had to do a qualification process. So I hope that helps at all. Okay, someone says, I'd read this one and then I got backtracked. I'm curious as to how one would use tarot without doing a reading, even if reading for oneself. Well, I mentioned a couple of examples, but one of my favorite examples is just, there's a million ways you can use tarot without doing a reading, but one of my favorite examples that ties into the magical style would just be meditating with a card. So I like to do this because I think that the tarot is essentially a map of the human experience. So when I am in a place where, actually I kind of even did this today, because this morning one of the cards I drew for myself was the magician. And I thought, oh, that archetype of the magician is something that would be really powerful for me to tap into when I'm doing this live. And so I had the magician card in front of me, and I just sort of take some deep breaths and envision kind of activating the energy of that card within myself. So that's just one example of something you can do with tarot. So you can even look through your cards face up and say, what sort of archetype or what sort of energy do I want to consciously kind of focus on bringing forward in myself in this moment? And then just like sitting with that card, breathing with that card. That's one example. I hope that helps. So interesting and informative. Thank you so much. I'm really glad. Someone asked, what style have I had in mind with the Spacious Tarot? Oh, thank you so much for asking about that. Probably the Magical Style and the Therapeutic Style, both, because those are my favorite styles. So I think that you can see them in my deck, the Spacious Tarot. Someone says, I guess tarot can be more fluid. Oops. Yes, absolutely. I love tarot because there's a million things you can do with it. It's, I think even, is it in the Spacious Tarot guidebook, or maybe it was on my blog, but I wrote this thing about how tarot refuses to be one thing. It refuses to be pinned down. You can't really define and say this is what tarot is, because there's just sort of this whole infinite spectrum of what it can be to you in this moment, tomorrow, today, everything. Let's see. I love Kitchen Table Tarot from Melissa. I don't know how to say her last name. I've seen that book. I haven't read it. I should get that one. Great book. Okay, thank you for that. Someone says I might want to reference Jung. I love Jung. I know I was going to say I know a lot about Jung. There's always more to know about Jung, but I actually knew about Jung before I got into tarot, and that was part of what I was drawn to in tarot. I started working with tarot and I thought, oh wow, this really ties into the collective unconscious, and it ties into the idea of synchronicity. So definitely shout out to Jung. I mentioned Jung in the guidebook for the Spacious Tarot. Okay, let's see. Sorry guys, I'm a little behind on the comments, but I'm trying. Someone says meditating with tarot is a great tip. I'm glad you like that. Do I have any thoughts on the chakra tarot? No, I don't. I'm not familiar with that. I'm guessing that's a deck. I don't know anything about that. Someone says, thank you for creating the Spacious Tarot. Your guidebook and imagery is really comforting to me. That means so much to me. I'm just really glad to hear that. Okay, let's see. I'm trying to get the difference between tarot and therapy. Okay, we talked about that. Hopefully I got somewhat of a decent answer to that. Send my thoughts to our artist Annie. Yes, Annie is amazing. I'll definitely let her know. I just love her. She's great. Okay, I think I've gone through all the questions. I apologize if it was a little clunky. I was trying to scroll back through, but I appreciate you guys being here. I hope you enjoyed it and got something beneficial from it. Same thing if you're watching the replay. Next week, same time, same place, I'm going to be doing another one of these, and I'm going to be talking about the Fool's Journey. I am so excited for that one. I think it's going to be really good, so I hope that you guys will be able to come back and hang out with me again next week. So until then, I appreciate you all. Take good care of your sweet selves, and I will see you next time. If I can figure out, someone says they love my reels. Thank you so much. That's where my ridiculous sense of humor comes out, so I'm glad you appreciate that. You guys are very welcome. I can't wait to see you next time. If I can never figure out how to end the live though, so maybe we'll just be here for a while. Let's just hang out until I figure out how to. You'd think I would know this by now. Oh wait, maybe I do that. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, bye.